Greetings, greetings, greetings. You are now tuned into the vault. Trust Christian, know nothing, control everything. Just want to thank you for tuning in live, listening to replay. This is always a pleasure to do episodes still to this day. Episode 683, Trust Funds Flow, Abusive Trust. Definitely thankful to do this episode. Some people are going to be surprised by where we go with this conversation, and many that are new, you'll just get some good conversation. Trust Christian, know nothing, control everything. Thank you for tuning in live, listening to replay as well. We're going straight to the three-letter word website .gov. This is one of those things you sit on the line with trustees every week, and they're like, "Hey, I'm not sure about this, or I'm not sure about that," and you're getting a lot of information from a lot of places. So we're gonna talk about where you get your information from. If you go in to file something and everybody wants to stay, "Oh, I want to stay compliant. I don't want to make a mistake." Well, if you don't want to make a mistake, did you go to the website? So trustees will end up going to the website. They'll see this and then they'll ask, have a conversation with us. Well, I saw it, but I know it's not completely true. So let's talk about it. So on the website, the three-letter word website, they talk about it. They say domestic trusts are created in the U.S. Here are some common abusive domestic trust schemes. So, do you have a domestic or do you have foreign? Well, what's the difference? We're going to go into it. Because they say it's abusive. The business trust that people like to purport over the internet, I'll see what they say. This involves the transfer of an ongoing business to a trust. Okay. So, are they discouraging it or are they encouraging it? But we're going to see how it's supposedly abusive. Also called an unincorporated business organization, a pure trust, constitutional trust. We had a trustee come to us the other day. "Hey, I saw a common law. We're going to talk about it. It gives the appearance that the taxpayer is giving up control over his or her business. In reality, the trustee or other entities controlled by the taxpayer, he or she still runs the day-to-day activities and controls the business income stream." Okay. Such arrangements provide no tax relief. The courts have held that the business income is taxable to the taxpayer under the variety of legal concepts, indicating lack of economic substance. It's a sham. Why? What's the economic substance? See, we want to go. Everybody wants to be in trust. That's the form. That's what you come to us and you talk about. You want to be in trust, but are you doing the substance? It says, what is the economic substance? It lacked economic substance. An assignment of income, or that the arrangement is a grantor type trust. Okay. In some circumstances, the trust could be taxed as a partnership. Okay. Let's talk about the family one. Everybody wants to talk about family trust because that's what they're talking about out here. Taxpayers transfer family residence and furnish to a trust, which sometimes rents the residence back to the taxpayer. Oh, you're getting the residence rented back to you as an individual? But we didn't have to completely elaborate. Neither did they. The trust deducts depreciation and expenses of maintaining operating the residence, including gardening, pool services, and utilities. The courts have consistently collapsed these type of trusts, taxing income to the taxpayer, disallowing personal expenses. So, are they personal expenses? Are they personal expenses? Let's see. We're gonna go to another where they try to classify this. Is it a scam? Is it a scam? Hmm. It's interesting because we can pull up cases that are Supreme Court cases. We can pull up many things. Trustees usually don't combat it, but we want to talk about it. All right, we're gonna get this something here because this is one of those things where did you go to the three-letter website? Some people do. Total trust arrangement. Let's not even call it. Refers to the total number of trusts purchased and the flow of income, expenses to and from the related entities. The related entities may include business, but are not businesses but are not trusts, such as limited liability companies, limited partnerships, C corps, F corps, blah blah blah. Okay. Upstreaming. Now they got a term called upstreaming. Refers to a scheme used by abusive trusts in which taxable income is reduced or eliminated by moving income through a series of related trusts. Are they related? Are you related? For example, a separate trust may be set up to rent business equipment to the business trust at excessive amounts. Think about this, excessive amounts. The equipment trust then distributes any remaining income to another trust that then deducts personal and allowable expenses, unallowable expenses, and so forth. Here we go. We got a few more definitions for people because they say, oh, it's abusive. Trust Christian. And we didn't study. We got to hit the books, of course. The person, straw man, a person who receives another grantor's assets to be passed through the original trust to the second and possibly more. Trust for the purposes of distinguishing true identity of ownership of the assets. Now, when you go to certain states and you apply for a corporation, isn't that to put yourself in a certain position? Why are certain states flexed or reported or purported that they're better than others? But we're going to keep it moving. Sham trust, generally used by the courts to describe an abusive trust that serves no legitimate purpose and lacks economic substance. So for all you all that want to work jobs, and I'm trying to put the money in the trust, Christian. I'm trying to get a direct deposit to go from my job to the trust. Can I actually go from my job to the trust? Well, no economic substance. The trust is disregarded for tax purposes and all income and expenses are assigned to the owner of the activity. Oh, okay. So are you actually running the activity or are you the trustee? This is one of those things where people don't really do the research. Trustee comes to us the other day, oh yeah, I got this common law thing. I need to know about this common law thing. They want to talk about a common law thing. That's just the facts. Like, okay, well, let's have a conversation about, well, where does the common law not exist? Where does the common law not exist, ladies and gentlemen? Oh, in Sharia jurisdictions. Are you in Sharia jurisdictions? Are you in a Napoleonic jurisdiction? Are you in a civic jurisdiction? That's the challenge. People are minorities. They don't get the business and the business law information. And if you don't know business or if you don't know business law, then you're gonna think that somebody just randomly throwing something out there, it's a fact. How's it a fact? We're asking questions that if any sane business person asks, which is like, oh yeah, successful people do this. Success leaves clues for sure. Success leaves clues. Doing our best to pull up for everybody. And that's pretty much it. What do they got here? I mean, you can sit on here and search this. Some people think, oh, they come through trustee training. Man, I gotta become the trustee of the year. In the respect, I gotta go to the IRS website instead of actually doing what you're supposed to do as a trustee, which is grow assets and have economic substance as a trustee. So, where are we at with it? Where are we at with trustees actually having economic substance? Oh, I'm having a hard time doing the things that I need to do, which is whether it's growing the assets of the trust or transferring assets, as people like to say, but it's just growing the assets of the trust. And that's the thing. We get people that'll come on the line with an attorney, and the attorney will just let them know, well, hey, look, well, even with the foundation, there will be people that'll come on and say, hey, what are you going to do once you give assets away to the foundation, which is a charitable position, which Bill Gates did? So why would you not be following the Bill Gates thought process? It's not just him, but we're pointing him out because he's someone that you can Google and see the example of someone that understands. Okay, for example, we were talking to a board yesterday, board of advisor, and we were on the line, and it was like, hey, recently there was a case that was brought up with Elon Musk, and he Elon is very smart in the respect that, for example, like when you have a public company or a company in general, there's shares, but the company doesn't have real share value until it possibly goes public. So these gentlemen, and it is what it is. Maybe he doesn't care, but clearly he doesn't. Like sometimes you get bigger than the money, and for example, he has shares in the company. Okay, so they are in Delaware, they're incorporated, and you all can Google this. And so we're giving a paraphrase of the version of which basically there was a court case brought up against the company, which is he had too many shares and not taking a salary. But he wanted to liquidate the shares or utilize the shares as collateral because trustees try to come to us think they smart or slick. It's like, oh, I want to actually do that. Well, okay. Are you actually going to take the company public? Are you actually going to grow the company to where it has true economic substance and value? Or is it, oh, I just have a piece of paper. It really didn't provide any value to anyone in the world. I don't see I don't see that in the world. I just have it on a piece of paper because that's what I want to say the company's worth. Once again, what he did was, is let's just say the company had 100 million shares. You have 100 million shares, and he owned 30 million of the shares. It's quite a bit of the shares in the company. It's 30 million of the shares, and he put it at they're worth $1 for each one or 50 cents for each one. Well, they're not really worth anything until the company goes public or they get an infusion of capital privately or otherwise. Well, the company did go public, and they did get private funds, and the company went above the number that they had on that piece of paper as far as the shares. And in turn, he wanted to cash out. And because of that state, there are certain tax advantages for being set up in that state as a corporation or otherwise. And they didn't like that in that state. They wanted to extract, you know how certain states may not have like you guys may see that some states may have no income tax. That's a big deal if you're an executive. So some people say, why would I set up my family estate or my company in a certain state? Because you understand if you're a resident of that state or otherwise, you may actually benefit from no income tax in that state as an executive. Those are strategic moves from the beginning that you do. Well, he did that from the beginning. So when people say, "Oh no, Christian, I don't know if I can come up with 100 shares in my 100 million shares in my company because I don't know if exactly because you don't think you're gonna go public." He knew he was gonna go public. It's not, and he was prepared to go public. So even if you're not gonna go public, you're prepared because you're doing it from the beginning. So these are best practices. Success leaves clues. It's not leave it behind anymore. It's called, okay, I got to adapt that to my public company. I got to adapt that to the LLC or the C Corp that we're running right now. Because if and whenever we are in a share position, which we have the ability to be in, and not just be in a position where we're just a manager or we're just the CEO or we're just taking a salary. Because if we take a salary, we're liable. Whereas Elon, he didn't take a salary. So because of that, they want the state came after him actually, and they made them have a board meeting. The board meeting, literally, board of advisors said yes, we approved of this. Okay, state came back once again. And they said, yeah, we want the shareholders to come. Which usually, if you all know, whether it's in trusteeship or in a public company, shareholders usually have no power. Now, that's just being honest. A lot of these big companies, they make it a point to have no shareholders having any, at least public shareholders, common shareholders, to actually have beneficiaries to have any control or power. They came back voted, yep, we approve of it. So it just shows you there's a lot of value in being in certain states. There's a lot of value in understanding what you're doing. Bottom line. So when we see it, it's just interesting to see, okay, trust Christian, I don't know if I'm doing it right. Well, are you setting up with the end in mind? Are you progressively working toward an end? Or is it, hey, I just want to protect some assets? Ladies and gentlemen, if they say it takes money to make money, take money to make money, it takes money to store money. That's why the bank charges you. That's why they don't give you any interest for holding the money. Because it's not meant to sit still. They're trying to lend it at the bank. So why would you be sitting the money still? But this is what happens. When they talk about financial literacy in the population, we can go ahead and say it. If there's a lack of financial literacy, there are many that have been given the dumbing down effect because they're not focused on the cash flow of their endeavors. They're focused on working, and in turn, does that mean you're building a skill set? Some may say, okay, we're going to build a skill set. But there is, if we want to say it's the game of money, once you turn 18, you're playing the game of money. You're not playing the game of who can be better as far as a skill, because it's about who can really make money, make money. When people enter into the environment of, I want to be a trustee, that means you have a fiduciary obligation. That's the bottom line. Oh man, Trust Christian, what do you mean I got a fiduciary obligation? That's your position as a trustee. You're not a worker. You're not a ditch digger. You're not a bricklayer. You are a fiduciary of a contract. That's that. It's not blue collar work. It's white collar work now. It involves thinking. It involves planning. It involves real execution. It involves quite a few skills. It does. Trustees come to the table. They don't come in and say, hey, Trust Christian, do I have the skill sets to do this? Because we could ask quite a few questions. Just a few too as well. We could identify what trustees are actually, if they actually have the skill set. We could ask you, do you have a challenge being organized? Do you have that challenge? Oh, Trust Christian, I got it. Can't you help me overcome it? You're the organizer, right? Right. So when we plan out your schedule, is it easy? Oh man, it may not be easy, but the manager of a company has a plan. The manager of an estate has a plan. The trustee of an estate has a plan. The trustee of a business has a plan. I didn't plan my life this week. Somehow, something got in the way of this plan for that plan. Oh, really? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, they'll say generational wealth is a priority. But if you can say that you're unorganized, you don't have to worry about passing it down. The fact that you're unorganized means your children are going to be unorganized. It's not Trust Christian, you think you know it all. We don't care. We letting you know the statistics from the environment that we're in. Whether people want to say it's challenging to put together generational wealth, let alone pass it along. How are you going to pass it along without passing along, which we'll share with you all, ladies and gentlemen, the rooms we sit in, they are not focused on, we're not focused on passing along money. We're focused on passing along values. When you pass along values, then you don't have a question whether this child or that person is going to actually go against it, because they've been trained, they've been programmed into doing proper steps. Some people would like to think, oh, he's a rich kid or she's a rich kid. They have a chance of failure because they don't really know what it's like to work for the money. Yeah, okay, that's not exactly accurate. Why? Because traditionally in a family that has funds, capital, traditionally, if it's passed down, they're going to have meetings where they pass along values. By them passing along values in those meetings, they're passing along the value of diligence, work ethic, consistency, persistency. They send them to, the education goes to the schools, passing along what goes in the schools. Oh man, Trust Christian, I gotta pass along something. The insurance policy. And then we sat in the room with our mentors. We'll never forget it. Oh man, I'll spend all the money in the policy. We're gonna spend all our money. See the difference in thought process? How are you gonna spend all the money? I thought you're supposed to pass something to your kids. How you gonna spend all the money, but you got an insurance policy on you that's gonna give them some money? Then you're gonna what? They gonna blow it. We'll give you an example of, and this is an interesting mentality. We won't call it poverty mentality. We'll call it interesting. Here you go. Trust Christian. Oh yeah. We're gonna go ahead. We're gonna give y'all a real scenario. They're not a trustee. So you can hear the thought process and you'll know why they're not a trustee. This isn't actual, it's no discrimination. We're giving you demo so you can understand the demographic and you can place culture and you can place culture into how things are raised, how people are trained. We'll give you. We're going to say demo. Southeast Asian. Southeast Asian, lived in San Francisco. Family was educated. They're first generation immigrant. We know the son of that family. The son of that family, they have multiple houses. This is a family that's educated. They have multiple houses. The son, because he was so well off, you're right. He didn't get passed along the values of entrepreneurship. Guess what? He had a job. He had a job for a long time till he was in his 30s or 40s. Next thing you know, he went in the insurance business. He's in the insurance business. Does he have the interest in doing other things? Yes, there's no knock to the dream. We're giving an example. The example is this individual didn't go into the same business as their family, is in a different business than their family. So, hey, you guys are going to be posed with the challenge. Did I force my kid to do the same thing? You don't even want to know. The conferences that we go to, even the leaders in the room have their children sitting in the room. Now, some of y'all want to go to old Christian, are the kids looking stiff like all the rest of us? Are they looking stiff wearing suits? Are they wearing sneakers? Hey, when you got a billion and your dad runs the organization or your mom runs the organization, you might show up in the room with some sneakers on because your family's happy for them to be in there, but they also still wearing a suit. It's just, hey, we're in the era of if you want to flex with a pair of sneakers on to feel comfortable and not wear dress shoes, that's fine. That's the era that we're kind of slightly getting into, but ladies and gentlemen, there's so much old money in the room, you still see dress shoes. So even if you're, under 30, we say under 40, even older, if you're wearing sneakers, hey, great. But for the most part, it's just come in here, dress traditional business, and call it a day. And just make sure your family don't lose the money. That's the type of environments that we're in. That's how it is. So people would rather for their family to be in the room wearing sneakers than for them to not be in the room and working for another family, doing other activities. So then we get to Southeast Asian. They, are at a point where they're not working with the family, but we talk to them. You're like, hey, talk to us about you were brought up well to do. You got a great education, quote unquote, in the public school system. Okay, now you all of a sudden turn to entrepreneurship because you did go through a working environment. Okay, so what's your thought process from here? Uh, Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to give substandard information or part of the story, and then there's a higher level of standard to the story, which is substandard is, hey, I'm just going to work in this business, I'm going to build it, and that's that. They're not going to exit the business, which is interesting because we share with them a story that people exit in insurance businesses. So if you don't exit a business, you never really extract the money. It's called just having a higher paid job. You're literally the first in, first out. You're the first to be hired, and you're going to be the last to be fired. Why? Because you actually are the owner. You work for yourself. But in turn, did you build a business? When people talk about scale, did you build something with a team? That's even trusteeship. Did you build something with a team? That's what gives it economic substance. Oh man, Trust Christian, I'm trying to protect the family from, shambles. Well, okay. Do you have a secretary for the trust? Do you have a CFO? A fractional CFO, somebody that's a trustee. And people come to us all the time. Oh, I read this book, so I need a trust protector. But you don't have a CFO. You need someone to protect something, but you don't have a CFO. Ladies and gentlemen, oh, Trust Christian, this, that, and the third. Let me know. Are you really doing it? I don't know. I want to know, are you doing it? First of all, yes. We associate with these individuals and get them to do work. That's the bottom line. We share with you all. Some trustees are asked, well, do I put this person in the trust with our family? If you don't trust them, maybe not. But we're in the era of fractional everything. Everybody wants a ham hock or half a hawk. Oh man, come on, let's, if we don't have to meet, we don't have to meet. It's that type of deal. So if people can get siloed work, or you get them to come on the line once a month, what's the big deal? It's too easy to fail, ladies and gentlemen, in trusteeship when they talk about abusive trust schemes. Why? When they talk about the fact that people don't have economic substance, which means they don't have the values, not the money. because they can clearly show that there's money going through it, but they don't have the economic values that they need to keep the situation going properly. So, same thing with the gentleman that we're talking about. How are you going to carry on the family estate? You want to know what they said? Guess what? I don't even want what my parents have. I'm okay. I'm building something bigger and better. Now, that's a great thought process. We hear a few of those young gunslingers say, I'm going to build something bigger and better than my family, my parents. But remember, we also sit in a room, which I don't want to talk about. We sit in a room with 7 generations deep. Some people actually do make it. And when you sit around them, when you see people make it 5 generations deep, you start wondering, like, wow, this is a real thing. Of course it is. 5 generations. Oh, yeah, we've been in trust for 5 generations. Like, man, 5 generations. Oh man, I could start counting the years back. Trust Christian in the vault. It's interesting. Somebody just typed into the chat. Appreciate Melanie Thomas said, substance is commitment to long term, like a 30-year plus out. And it's interesting because we were listening to something about Rockefeller, looking at something about Rockefeller the other day, and it was talking about how if you have to have the ability to look out long term. And once again, they say, "Oh, trust Christian. How do I make it fail? Why did I fail? Because you didn't think long term. Because you had to watch the basketball game. That's why." You didn't plan out the future. You don't need to ask Trust Christian, oh, Trust Christian, tell me what the failures do. I need to know what the failures do, not what success does. Guess what? Failures, they don't plan out, they don't plan. Because they're afraid that their plan is going to fail. So they don't plan. That's why. Simple. So some people say, oh, I'm not able to do 30. You can do 10 maybe. Do a decade. What do you look like from one decade to the next? From 20 to 30, from 30 to 40, from 40 to 50, or you go from 2020 to 2030, or you go from 2030 to 2040. You pick whichever calendar you're going to use, your own, or you're going to use the other calendar, and then you'll go forward from there. Oh man, I never planned before. That's why you get the consultation. That's why you reach out to Trust Christian and Evolve, so you can get that consultation from who will be someone that's a senior in the field, just like we get the counseling from seniors in our field. We'll share with you a few things that we'll share the values that people like to talk about. Oh, well, Christian, what are you just passing along patience? No, we're not being patient on the wealth. What you talking about? You don't know how many years you got. You don't know how many days you got. How you parsing out time? I got time, Trust Christian. I could go tomorrow. My wife, she not even sitting in the meetings with me to get the information. So, if I go, it's in the trust. It's like crypto. Yeah, I don't even know. We're going sidebar real quick. We literally had a trustee lose money in crypto because they didn't know the code to get the money, because they didn't know they had an account, but they got locked out of the account. They called a major company and they could still not get into the account. But y'all want to talk about making money with this crypto stuff. And we talked about it. Think about it. Where are the invisible coins when you lose it go? But they want to talk about this is not a scam. Where did if you don't know the code to get in the wallet, where did the invisible coins go now? Would they back to the original? No. Craziness. It's sad, man. We think about how many people lost money in that scam already. It's actually one of the biggest scams we've had so far in the modern market. It's literally for a subsect of investors. They, like, when you sit in a room with high net investors, they tell you, we're not touching that thing. That thing, yeah. I don't want to listen to Warren Buffett. Trust Christian in the vote. Exactly. You don't want to listen to Warren Buffett because you don't have any money. It's not Dave Ramsey. Do you know the difference? Dave Ramsey's on TV. Warren Buffett's not. He's actually making the money. That's the difference. Someone's doing it as opposed to just trying to sell books to you. I read the book on Trust Christian to Vote. I know I need a trust protector, but I didn't get a fractional CFO. I didn't get a fraction of this. I didn't get anyone else to check and balances me. It's the checks and balances. We know we may be a little slightly all over the place, but how are you going to compete passing along family wealth if you don't pass along the values? One of the values that we can share that one of the mentors shared was, which one are we going to share of his? He definitely has one of the values that they're definitely worthy. Oh, here we go. We didn't want to share that one because that one was a little easy. Like, you should know that you're worthy, and you the guys don't want to know. Oh, trust Christian. I think I'm worthy. Well, okay. Well, do you have meetings every week? Because if your family passed it along from the previous generation and said you got to have a meeting every week, are you passing or failing? Are you showing up to the meetings or are you failing? That's the facts, ladies and gentlemen. Oh man, trust Christian and vote. You know, I ain't gonna have a meeting every week. I'm gonna do it once a month. And do you do it? If the family passed along some real substantial wealth, if you had to picture 3 generations out, you think your grandkids gonna show up? You think your great grandkids gonna show up? Oh man, they gonna be left with more money than you got right now. So what makes them show up to a meeting? Okay. Mentor said, Trust Christian, you gotta remain intellectually curious. And we know so many trustees that some trustees definitely they hit the books. They study. And it's not always redundant. It's new information. And the intellectually curious part is one of the most interesting parts because this is a rather not older, mentor. It's just someone that's above their 50s. And when you look at them, you could tell they're young in heart. When you look at them, you could tell that they have a zeal about themselves that they're still looking forward to the next thing in life. And some people might blame it on the money because obviously you have a lot of money. It's like, oh, this guy, he has to be happy because he has a lot of money. And then, but in all actuality, the mentor is telling you, with or without the money, I have to remain intellectually curious. And we just want to point that out to you all that so many trustees or people come through and they're like, oh man, I want to learn trust. I want to learn trust. What do you mean? You got to learn something new every day. We have that as a report that we have to do every single day. How is that wrong for you to have a report? What did you learn every single day as a trustee? Do you not understand how much data you will compile for the second and third generation, the fourth generation, if you actually put together, hey, I attempted to learn something new today, grandchild? It's too hard though. Because people are around people that don't support that type of activity. Oh man, what do you mean? You're gonna do a report every day so you can do a report for your grandchildren? You don't even know. Right. But if you actually put the steps in place about the basics, some people say, oh, I got insurance, but did you assign the insurance over to the right people yet? To who you need to assign it to? Or are you still in position of ownership? Is it going to be distributed the wrong way? People, oh man, I don't want my kids to get it directly because I don't want them to mess it up. So how do I protect it? Who's going to take the money from the insurance policy as a trustee? Who's going to be the trustee? Right. But if you were interviewing banks, you might find out there's institutional trustees. Are you interviewing banks? I'm going to go interview low-level bank, community bank. I'm going to go interview low-level community bank. I got turned down from a low-level community bank, Trust Christian Vault. I got turned down. I didn't call them in advance like we tell the trustees. Talk to trustees and instruct them. Call the bank before you go. I just went in and I tried to get a bank account. And they told me no. Came back to me no. It's called a waste of time. That's what that's called. So we know we've gone over some places with this conversation today, but we definitely want to share that when they talk about abusive, oh, the common law, those don't exist. What law is the state operating under? So whether the trustees know it or not, it's basically an ignorant part of the population. Why? If you don't speak legalese, you're going to have a hard time operating. That's just the bottom line. I don't know if I know legalese. That's it. Do you have the Black's Law Dictionary? Are you studying your words? Are you reading cases? How are you not reading a case, but you know who's in the NBA Finals right now? That is showing you priorities. Oh, Trust Christian, you could really ask me that question. How do I saw it on the internet? I was slightly scrolling, but did you slightly actually go on the website and or we say, okay, if you're in trustee training, we have a folder with cases. We have cases. We have cases that we reviewed, and then we have cases that you can actually go Google yourself. And then we share with trustees to build relationships with lawyers because a lawyer has access to Westlaw and LexisNexis. And you can actually, hey, buddy, hey, yeah, here's some lunch money. I need you to print out a case for me. You can get a law student we got to give people the hard, easy information. You can go to a law student at a law school, say, hey, I need you to go into the law school and print out something off of Westlaw if they have access to the case law. They can get access to the case law. If you went to the law library, you might be able to ask them how you can get access to the case law. If you actually go to the law library, Trust Christian, I'm gonna go to the law library. I'm gonna figure this out, man. You know I'm gonna do it. But did you get everything free at the law library since they wanted free Trust Christian in the vault? They wanted free, right? The internet made it almost kind of free, but it still takes time, energy, and effort to go to the law library consistently and get the information you need. Get the case law. So the abusive thing, you got to know the terms. It doesn't even say illegal. It says abusive. We'll get on the line with a trustee. Hey, what are the two things you can't do in trust? Otherwise, you're gonna get the corporate veil pierced. And then they hit you with they say they like Porky Pig. But that's all, folks. Because it's your responsibility as a trustee to know the four do's, the four don'ts as a trustee in trusteeship. Oh man, Trust Christian, I asked you the question, but man, I know the game sport. I know who's playing sports this week. I know a new movie's coming out, Trust Christian. Oh, I know it all, but I don't know the two things or the four things or the few things. Something simple to help you pass along wealth from one generation to the next. Something simple. Something that if you don't even get it, how you gonna give it to your children for them not to do it? See, people don't want to say this is a thing that you're not supposed to do because it's such a free for all. Well, I see him do it over there. I saw this. Hey, Trust Christian, guess what, Trust Christian? I was listening to the group, this type of group, and I saw that they were utilizing a Wyoming company in the trust system. So, what do you think about that? Nothing, because that's domestic. And when you study, you get used to domestic, foreign. We just sat there and went over something today that went over domestic. They didn't even talk about foreign. Why? Because they don't have jurisdiction. But oh no, Trust Christian, I read it. It said domestic trust exactly because you didn't study the words. You don't want to say it's about intelligence. That would be a sad thought. Why? Because someone will literally look at the word, read a definition, and say, all right, doesn't mean that Trust Christian involved. It means something that I feel. I feel it means this way. It's like why do you think they go to law school? So they can sit in there and actually have a pontificating conversation about what do you think of this? They actually are saying thinking instead of feeling. They don't think they don't really have feelings in the world of law. It's more of a thinking logic based environment. Right. They do the best to pull you through logic. They don't really want to use your creativity in law. But if you really understood that there's still levels of creativity to it, why do they call it a practice if it's not a level of creativity to it? If the law is not evolving? Because it is. It's evolving. You practice it. There's new cases. There's new things that come up, new scenarios, new situations. But people that are stuck in the old way of thinking, they're going to get old results. But when you're in an environment such as the common law, since they say it don't exist, it's based off a precedent. That means previously. The previous situations that have happened that have not been overruled or changed. But oh no, Trust Christian involved, oh, I gotta read that. I gotta know the previous cases. I gotta take some time on a Saturday or a Monday or whatever day. Man, yeah, we're gonna go ahead and get rid of the lazy. You could literally use Google and get it to read the case if you just pull it up in the browser. I mean, come on, ladies and gentlemen. You can listen to the case. Man, I didn't get to that case yet. But you get into the money though, right? Hold on. How are you going to pass it along if you don't know how to have a conversation with your professionals that work with or for you? Who are the professionals? The lawyers, the accountants, the contractors for the businesses? How are you going to communicate with them properly? We're going to go ahead and give y'all the shake and skinny and wrap it up on this. The shake and skinny is most people, sorry to say it this way, some of y'all think y'all entrepreneurs. We're going to go ahead and say you think you're an entrepreneur. You're not even a real, you're not even thinking it. You're not an entrepreneur, but you're playing with it. You got employee thinking in an entrepreneur world. Ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't work. Sorry. When we get a trustee to come on the line, oh yeah, I'm still an employee. Yeah, you're not a trustee. So you're gonna fail. We gotta tell you that. So you can figure it out. Or you can just admit, I'm gonna fail. I'm quit. Because that's what they're gonna do. Because they're trying to make a square into a circle, and that's not how this works. How it works is you become what you think about. If you're a trustee, you're a trustee. You're not going to say, when a trust Christian asks you, well, what do you do? And they say, well, I'm still an employee. Well, while I'm an employee, or I am an employee, or I'm thinking like an employee, or I'm feeling like an employee. Exactly. Employee gets employee results. How could you even bring that up in the conversation? Because you're around employees all the time. And that's all y'all talk about is employee stuff. Y'all don't even understand Trust Christian don't be want to even talk to y'all. What? Oh, Trust Christian, I can't believe you said that. I'm hanging up now. Bye. How could you say that? I'm an employee. You don't know how hard it is. What do you mean? Some people got to grow out of those positions. We're listening to a book right now by a billionaire. He worked for a major company, went to school, did all the traditional stuff, struck out on his own, started his own business. Simple as that. It's not undoable. It's doable. It's doable. So, how do you not be abusive in a trust? You study, you become a trustee. You don't think like an employee and a trust. How do I assign my employee income over to the trust because you're involved? I'm trying to get rid of a liability. Right, because you're thinking like an employee, because you're the liability. There is no liability in income other than you. Because you're a sole proprietor. You're doing it yourself. That's the type of different conversation that we're having with trustees and otherwise, ladies and gentlemen. We appreciate all the trustees that have come throughout the years, and come through. We appreciate you all big time. Definitely continuously looking to serve. We got a webinar coming up for currently enrolled trustees right now with a tax strategist. We've done workshops with this individual. They are an enrolled agent. Trustees would be like, "Oh, Trust Christian, I'm trying to get around an enrolled agent," but then we already know they get a little scared. Why would you be scared when this person can defend you and they can take you on as a client? So they can take you on as a client and they can defend you in court. For sure. So take it to check. Can't have true long lasting success if a person is participating in infidelity. And if y'all only looked at the family estate, is you gotta be faithful to the family estate first. But how many people wake up with the man on their mind? They over here talking about tariffs. Now, unless you in business for yourself, what you talking about tariffs for? Trust Christian Vote, the business we operating in, we ain't thinking about no tariffs. Now, if your business got something to do with a tariff, that's why you think about it. But if you're not, what you talking about it for? What you think? That's like being an employee. I'm gonna talk about what everybody else talk about. We gotta talk about the tariffs because it's just something to talk about. It's not really affecting my margins. It's not affecting my business. I don't know how it's affecting my business. I don't know how it's affecting my OPEX. Can't even tell you how it's affecting their OPEX, but they want to talk about it though. They say we sat around so many great managers. This is what they said. A great manager, a great asset manager, a great trustee makes money in good times and in bad times. They make money in an up market and in a down market. They make money in a recession. They make money in a non-recession. Ladies and gentlemen, oh man, trust Christian. I got a job. I got a skill. I got a business. But is your business able to grow? And what people consider hard times? And that comes from hitting the books, studying the legalese, so you can have the conversations with the professionals, so you can delegate the work out and get the work done. That's what it comes down to. Are you able to get the work done? How many people are going to get the work done? Oh man, what's the work, Trust Christian? Going to the conferences that we go to. You think Trust Christian really wants to go to these conferences at one point? It's like, what am I going to these events for? Well, once again, where you're not intellectually curious, that's what you say. When you're intellectually curious, you say, wealthy people associate with wealthy people. People in trust associate with people in trust. People in foundations associate with people in foundations. I might have to change my association, upgrade my association. Is it that hard, Trust Christian? You don't even know how hard it is, because we see people they not in the rooms. It's so important to be in the rooms. Why? Because you could miss something. Now we're not saying you should have FOMO and fear of missing out, but we know people that's going to sporting events over going to where the business is going, which is the family estate. The family estate needs you to go to these meetings and make sacrifices now. The family estate needs you to do that, especially as a first gener. It's so interesting to see first gen right now, actually, seeing how first gen has to operate, because you would think they would put the highest standard in place for the next few generations to come along. Instead, you would think some people would say, "Oh, it gets watered down as you go," but like we say, we sit in a room where it just holds true. Like they're not going to lose the money. We're not going to lose it. Like our focus is not to lose money. Like here we go. We'll share with you how like you know who you're talking to, because like when you're talking to people, they'll be like, "Oh yeah, I'm building generational wealth." And the rooms we sit in, we don't talk about building generational wealth. We talk about preserving it. We just talk about not losing it. That's it. The conversation's different. We're not talking about building no generational wealth. Oh, that's the reverse way of doing it. We'll share with you what our rooms, the rooms we sit in. They'll say, "Trust Christian, what's the exit for the business? What's the exit?" It could almost when trustees go through trustee training, they say, "Oh wow, the trust has a lifespan because it's a person, right? So it has time for you as the trustees for that generation to actually do something and prove yourself. Otherwise, you should just go ahead and close it out as a trustee. Like, yeah, I didn't do my job. I didn't become a great money manager. I didn't know how to preserve assets under management. I didn't know how to grow assets under management. I was thinking like an employee." That's the type of thought process that's stated there, because it's a goal setting environment. All you gotta do is come into the family estate, figure out your weakness, your strengths and your weaknesses. Figure out a role and duty and responsibility, and get busy on your aspect of growing the family or protecting the family or preserving the family, or that type of mentality. So first generals say, "Oh man, why is it so hard?" Because there's so much work required that if trustees only really knew, all you gotta do is just delegate out some of the work. Like find professionals that you can have conversations with, and you can checks and balances and throw ideas off. Like that's the bottom line. Trust Christian and Vault, we have so much experience based off the fact that we just interviewed and had a lot of conversations with a lot of professionals that either know or don't know what we're talking about. So type that to the chat. Everything's about relationships and what's in a person's heart. And it's interesting because people are going to be faced with these decisions all the time. You know, and we seen something recently where this individual doesn't understand that, ladies and gentlemen, when you in a private wealth environment, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, you either ready to go to war because you got some money, or you gonna learn that it's better to have friends than enemies with money. So it's important to operate with integrity. So many people think that wealthy people don't have integrity, and it's not. You'll see a lot of wealthy people operate with stand on their principles. So just like people have different religions, that's what we look at it as. Some people are going to stand on certain principles. That's how they're moving. But at the end of the day, there's going to be some unifying principles in order for people to work together. That's how that works. And if you don't align on those principles, fair enough, people are going to go elsewhere. People aren't going to work together for extended periods of time. But we'll let you know, the sooner those interests don't align, the sooner it's not going to work. And that's what we've seen so far throughout the years with different things. And it's just like, well, relationships. It's so little of us in the 1%. You think you're going to burn somebody's name up? Because that's what we got. We got our reputations. Sure, you could say it's the money, but shoot, everybody's making money. Let everybody tell it. So then what separates us? Our reputation. The principles we stand on, like we're talking about. Knowing that, hey, look, if I got to put my back against the wall, I'm not going to drag nobody down with me. We did that throughout the trustees for all the years we worked with trustees. We never went in and said, "Oh, we're gonna be on some ruthlessness. We gonna maintain management of the family estate." Why? Because we already done. We know so much information at the vault that if we wanted to manage your family estate, we could do it. It's not hard, but the only thing is, where's the compensation? Because when you enter into the wealth environment, we've already stated it costs money, let alone to make it, but to hold it, to manage it, to preserve it. It's too easy to fail though. That's why it's so important to study. And we'll share that with trustees that, you know, trust Christian and vote. We can say, oh man, man, reading books, man, about the trust stuff, man, you're going to confuse yourself. Okay. What happens is when you have an objective, you can look at things objectively. How many people are able to look at things objectively? When you have a goal, when you have an objective, which is generational wealth, you weigh everything against, is this a generational wealth activity? No, Trust Christian, don't say it to me like that. I got to do a few things. I'm trying to have. First of all, work and fun are not the same thing. But you hear this mentality in the public, oh, your work should be fun. Ladies and gentlemen, then they don't know the term hard work. That's all it is. They know about fun work, but they don't know about hard work. There's actually a thing called hard work, ladies and gentlemen. The hard work is you actually planning, you actually hosting a meeting, being the only person there, you actually, associating with professionals, you getting out your comfort zone, going to a club that you can't afford, going to a gala, going to a dinner that involves these individuals, dressing the part, and actually having something to say. Not just going in there and being a fly on the wall. So many people want to diminish themselves and I'm just going to be a fly on the wall instead of actually going in there and presenting value to the environment. That's the difference between a wealthy environment and a poor people environment. Poor people coming in here, they coming to get saved. They coming in here to take. They coming in here to get blessed. Wealthy people, we all come to the environment with the same thing. Our skills, talents, abilities, we're looking to be a blessing. How can I add value? Literally, that's what changed our lives. Once we found out that when you really go and work with A players, they only going to say, how can I add value, Trust Christian? Not, oh, Trust Christian, I'm not organized. You think they're going to admit that? No, they might depend on you, Trust Christian, because you're organized. But they're going to say, hey, you know what? I'm good at this, though. So I'm going to add value. How can I be of value? Hey, Trust Christian, seems like you're organized. I can work with you. You're organized. You hear the difference? Everybody has weaknesses. We all got weaknesses. You can surround yourself with people that are stronger. Someone say conversation builds security in oneself. Definitely getting out there, having those conversations with people in the public. You'll really see, like, trustees will come through and we bring them up to speed really, really quickly at the vault. And they'll go out in the real world and they'll be upset, or they don't really see it completely, that they're way more educated than a public person. Why? Because their mind now is thinking from a private lens, and they're talking to public people. And by them having a conversation with public people, they can clearly see, oh wow, there's a distinction between the way that I'm thinking about something and this person doesn't even know. It's like, oh, I'm standing in front of somebody, I'm a trustee, and this person doesn't know what a trustee is supposed to be or what a trust is or whatever. Exactly. So how long are you going to stick around those people? People, oh, Trust Christian, these people, that's the only thing in my neighborhood. That's why we say you might have to leave your neighborhood and go and get around, like we say, wealthier people. And don't think wealthy people are all smart either. Just means that they have a better grasp on what we're talking about here. They know, okay, I got over $10 million. Man, I need to protect this, buddy. I need to protect this. I ain't about to lose no $10 million plus. So we appreciate everybody for tuning live, listening, replay. Always appreciate everybody for tuning live, listening, replay. Hey, abusive trust. Hey, a lot of times you go back and listen to this episode to key words. Are they related? Are you related? But people don't want to do things that arm's length distance dealing. So we're happy to do the episode. Appreciate everybody for tuning live, listen, replay. Always appreciate everybody for tuning live, listen, replay. We encourage you guys, go to the abusive trust schemes over the internet and find out what are those things. Oh, they call it this type of trust, that type of trust. Ladies and gentlemen, is it illegal? Oh, I didn't hear that part. I heard abusive, right? And then they said domestic, right? So it's like, trustees, look. Way too many trustees at times have an employee dependency mentality. And we're going to continuously say it, because if you are that person, you're being checked. Not by Trust Christian in the Vault, but the system that you say you're looking to engage in. It's a system, ladies and gentlemen. They got an employee system. They got a this system. They got a public school system. They got a private school system. They got a universal system. It's a system out here. What system are you operating in? Trustees won't come with that common law talk. Oh yeah, I seen over the internet. They said that common law trusts don't exist. Those things are supposed to be legal. Okay. Do you know the laws? Thanks, Trust Christian Vote. I'm really researching this. Wow. Okay. So they can say that, but then it's not exactly true, because it's about the words. It's actually one of those things. Here we go. We had someone give us a compliment the other day. They said, Trust Christian Vote, your attention to detail, the way that you make that a priority is so impeccable, because most people don't. And we just sat there and was like, yeah, it just comes from us having it's what, okay, y'all want to hear another value that the mentor said you got to pass along to your kids? Here he said, you got to pass along critical thinking. That already wiped out half of the people. Sorry to say it. Oh, Trust Christian, what are you talking about? You're a critical person. That's all you want to do is criticize things. No, Trust Christian actually critically thinks. Sorry. Trust Christian critically thinks. Do you critically think? That's a real thing. It's not being a pain. It's not being a bad person. It's critically thinking. Are you critically thinking about your life right now? Oh, Trust Christian, I don't want to critically think about my life. I'm just trying to get what they say. If you don't swim against the current upstream, you're going to float downstream. Most people, they trying to take the easy route. That's called floating downstream. You're not critical thinking. I can't critically think about how to jump upstream a little bit. I ain't gonna never feel like I gotta swim. I'm just gonna float downstream. And they floating without a plan. They ain't put the plan on paper. They say they got a business idea. They didn't put the business idea on paper. Sham trust, abusive trust. I'm in trusteeship trust, Christian, but I don't want to start a business. I don't want to do business. Right, you don't want to do business. Admit it. You're trying to take the easy route. I just want to go to work. Oh, they say, I just want to protect some assets. It's nothing wrong with protecting assets. But, look, you're a fiduciary now. Get out of the way. You can go find an institutional trustees. Institutional trustee. We work with trustees. You can go find an institutional trustee. Promise you. We work with trustees to the point where yes, they can end up working with an institutional trustee, and they'll have someone at a bank or some type of estate, something, some type of attorney that works in the states. They can pretty much just manage that estate. They'll do the paperwork for you. They'll do all of that. They'll be the trustee over the family estate. That's the bottom line. If you want to find an institutional trustee, like, we're giving people options, but if you want the option where you say, oh man, I'm going to be the first Jenner, then let's talk about not doing this abusive trust conversation stuff. Oh, Judge Christian, I did the research and it doesn't look too. First of all, that's how you know it's 1%. The fact that it's just so it's so ambiguous, excuse us. It's so ambiguous. It's so ambiguous. Oh man, the private sector, they say, I hear about the private, but I don't really know about the private. Right, because there is a private. The only difference is, are you thinking private and focused on private, or are you focused on trying to take your public information and go into the private and see how that works? And it don't work. Why? Because the private information is just a whole different set of information that says you're going to learn it, and then you'll do that. And what does that mean? You don't do everything by yourself. Trust Christian DeVoe, don't say it like that, Trust Christian. I'm over here by myself, Trust Christian, knowing this trust information. I can't have a conversation with none of my old friends or people I know. That's what they say. Who do you talk to on a frequent basis? We got mentors, we got advisors. We share that with you all. Some trustees go get some trustees don't. We're talking about the thought process. Appreciate everybody for tuning live, listen, replay. I know we did a little bit longer episode than normal, but appreciate everybody for tuning live, listen, replay. Appreciate all the comments in the chat. Appreciate you all for tuning in, and I look forward to hearing from you guys. Christian at trustchristian.com. Christian at trustchristian.com. Peace and joy.